Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of the 6 p.m. prime time newscast on Equinoxe television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. In top stories in this edition of the news, a group of opposition political party leaders in the Republic of Cameroon are mounting pressure on the Cameroon government for the liberation of some political and civil society activists and leaders under house arrest and detention after the protests of the 22nd of September 2020 in the Republic of Cameroon against poor governance. The civil society and the political leaders converged on Douala today, and speaking to the press, they condemned the house arrest of Professor Maurice Kamto, leader of the CRM political party, and other civil society and political activists who have been arrested and detained by government forces. And also in this newscast, we will show you the ugly face of some schools in the country ahead of school resumption. Thank you, dear viewers, for joining us in this edition of the news. We begin with this declaration of the Cameroon People's Party, the CPP, and other political parties who have put their voices together to condemn what they qualify as poor governance and the gross violation of human rights in the Republic of Cameroon within the context of anti-government protests and the socio-political and security crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and also in the far north region of the country. In the far north region, Boko Haram activities have been going on for several years today, and several villages have been destroyed, several persons killed, many displaced. Kabanwala edit in this extract highlights some of the recent consequences of these atrocities.
10 days in our country, over a dozen lives have been lost in the extreme north, the northwest, and the southwest regions. These lives that are being lost, be they civilians or members of the armed forces, are the most precious thing we have as a nation. It is also necessary to remember that the conflict in these regions is a direct result of the extremely poor governance our country has known over the past 38 years. We as Cameroonians must act now to put an end to this continuous loss of life. The Biya regime can no longer deceive Cameroonians as to its true nature. It has chosen to lead the entire country into violence. The president of the CRM and other political leaders are currently under house arrest or in detention. The government of Cameroon is once again acting illegally, brutally, and in violation of the fundamental human rights guaranteed by our Constitution.
Kabanwala Edid, national president of the Cameroon People's Party, the CPP, speaking on behalf of her party, UPC, Manidem, Popular Movement for the Prosperity of the People, MP3, Amonde Avenue Civil Society Organization, West Cameroon Movement for Change, and Better Bread Cameroon. And speaking to the press today in Cameroon's economic capital, the political and civil society leaders also demanded with immediate effect the release of Professor Maurice Kamto, National President of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party, under house arrest since the 22nd of September 2020, when some Cameroonians took to the streets in Douala, in Yaoundé and other parts of the country, notably in some towns in the west region, to protest against poor governance. And Kabangwala, Edith and her peers are demanding the release of Professor Maurice Kamto, other leaders of the CRM and militants of other political parties and members of Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform who have been in detention for several days now. Take a listen to Kabangwala, Edith.
We, the people, regardless of ethnicity, must come together to put an end to this oppression and to build an equitable society. No one group is more victim than the other. Each corner of Cameroon has a tale of repression and marginalization to tell. At Stand Up for Cameroon, we ask you to put an end to all language and actions that divide and confuse us. This only serves to maintain the Biya regime in power. Across this country, let us come together as an oppressed people to initiate political transition that will put an end to our common oppression. In the immediate, Stand Up for Cameroon demands the release of Musa Bello, Sama Etienne, Mira Angun, and Tele Membu, who were arrested on September 18, 2020, and are currently being held in New Bell prison. They committed no crime. We demand the release of all those who protested peacefully on September 22nd, 2020. Peaceful protest is not a crime. We demand the release of the president of CRM, Maurice Kamto, and all other political leaders currently under house arrest or in detention. Political action is not a crime.
Kabangwala Edith, National President of the Cameroon People's Party, member of Stand Up for Cameroon, speaking there on behalf of over 5 political party and civil society organizations who spoke to the press today here in Cameroon's economic capital. In the meantime, the president of ACT Cameroon Civil Society Organization, ACT Civil Society Organization, former advisor of the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, now ally of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party, Penda Ekoka, says that the Cameroon government has completely failed in all dimensions, in the socio-economic, political, and otherwise. The government and other domains, the government has completely failed to deliver the goods, according to Christian Penda Ekoka, and he says that the Anglophone crisis cannot be solved in the way the government is going about it. The only way is inclusive dialogue.
As guest on the program La Vérité en Face on Equinoxe Television, Christian Penda Ekoka, president of the AG movement and ally to the CRM party of Professor Maurice Kamto, categorically stated that the Biya regime for 36 years has left nothing to be applauded, whether in the economic and socio-political life.
They have failed economically, they have failed socially, they have failed politically, security matters, and so on and so forth. And in front of the total failure, they are seeking scapegoats somewhere. Those are facts and figures. I'm not thinking, I'm not like someone thinking, I'm not thinking. Those are facts and figures. The figures are there, economic economy, number of people, poverty line, poverty rate, number of poor in Cameroon, the growth, indebtedness, and so on and so forth.
Those supporters of the regime will castigate this statement. Christian Penda Ekoka differentiates between efforts and progress. In this case, noting the term progress is being abused.
We are doing this, we are doing that, but the result is not there. You know, progress is underway. This is the way they are doing. Progress is underway, but you don't see the highway. The highway is maybe 50 kilometers. You see it for 20 years, you're building a highway. No. They will tell you that, what about the railways? Do you have potable water in Cameroon? Less than 50% of the people have potable water. And you still go up north, there's no potable water. Those are hard facts. Those are hard facts that there's no water. So you cannot claim that you have resolved the issue of access to potable water, you know, for the people. We're talking about electricity. You still have power outage all the time. All the time. Mr. Biya has been talking about power outage, I don't know, for almost 20 years. But the problem has not been resolved in the secondary bridge, and they still have a problem. And if you have to build, what has it resolved? There's no more traffic jam on the secondary bridge. So it was actually badly done because it has not resolved your problem of traffic jam. You people are living in Douala, and this bridge has not resolved. And when it's raining, you see that the bridge is overflooded.
To him still, government bears a red report card as far as resolving the Anglophone crisis is concerned.
Instead of resolving, sort of tackling the root cause of the problem, actually they're tackling the symptoms. That's why the solution is always cosmetics. This regime is always doing conning. It's a kind of conning that weary and so on and so forth. They are not addressing the root cause of the problem. Because to address the root cause of the problem, they need to go through it by, first of all, inclusive dialogue. But one of the first things that they have to do is a ceasefire. And then by stopping fire, you can rebuild kind of trust between people, reconciliation among people, then release all the political prisoners. So you create the condition for peace, you create condition for reconciliation so that people can sit around the table of dialogue. But not the dialogue only with you. You cannot dialogue with people who are on your own side. This system does not know what is called dialogue.
He emphasizes such an archaic regime whose members refuse to repent needs to be replaced for Cameroon to regain its integrity lost in dictatorship, repression, and violence on Cameroonians.
The president of ACT Civil Society Organization, former advisor of the President of the Republic of Cameroon, now ally of opposition leader Professor Maurice Kamto and his CRM political party, speaking there in that report compiled by Equinoxe. As to the southwest region of Cameroon, the governor Benau Bilai and his collaborators are now strategizing on how to contain some public manifestations that could degenerate into a chaotic situation. Some strategic dates are upcoming: 1st October and of course 5th of October equally. And the government, the governor and his collaborators were meeting today in the town of Boya, discussing on how to manage some of the happenings within the region that are not very friendly, or that could lead to a chaotic situation. Details with Terry Jato.
It is Tuesday, September 29, 2020, and the authorities say the traffic in Boya, the southwest regional capital, is a true reflection of a town that is up and waxing stronger. Elsewhere, at the southwest governor's office, Governor Bernardo Bilai is face to face with his collaborators to discuss on how to fashion activities to the interests of the government, first on October 1 and October 5. Every October 1 for the last 4 years now in the northwest and southwest regions have always been dramatic. To the separatists, it is the day of the independence of Ambazonia. Countermeasures therefore must be put in place, not only to stop any move in that direction, but also to secure the population and their properties, the southwest authorities say.
In regard to repeat threats by secessionists, mostly on social media in relation to the 1st of October.
And October 5 is day 1 of school resumption for the 2020-2021 academic year.
Today, education is life.
and the Southwest governor want a 100% effective school resumption in his region.
Young division is relatively calm.
And at the level of the divisions, feedback are already positive.
The population is preoccupied with preparatory activities towards the 2020-2021 academic year.
In Jan Division, for instance, 4-1 Lawrence, the senior divisional officer for the Sept division, started by thanking especially those in the academic sector in his division for that tenacity that they have demonstrated for the last 4 years.
And I want to congratulate, first of all, these teachers for being courageous, for taking all the risks all the time. But however, it is a risk, because if you, at the end of the month you receive salary without any services related to the state, that is tantamount to embezzlement of public funds.
And their assurances that they will answer present come October 5, 2020, day one of school resumption in Cameroon. And while congratulating these participants here for their contributions, Southwest Governor Bernard Okalia Bilai called on the law-abiding population of his region to go about their activities freely, as measures have been put in place for their safety.
Few days to back to school, several schools in the southwest region are still in a deplorable state. In the report coming up next, Smart Jikan Gabriel paints the ugly picture of some schools in Muya, in Boya, southwest region. His report.
Government Bilingual Primary School Muya, Boya subdivision in the southwest region. The school, founded in 1987, has been abandoned. This to the start of the new school year. The possibility of this school taking off effectively is very slim. Winds and heavy rains have to be repaired. The ceilings of the primary school are all rotten and needs a total renovation. The school, due to the crisis rocking the southwest and northwest region, have been neglected, and the inhabitants had once transformed the zone to be a dumping ground for their refuse. After Equinoxe television aired the images on our return to the zone, the area has been cleaned by a bulldozer. But one could see dirt still hanging around the vicinity of Government Bilingual Primary School in Muya. At the government primary school in Muya, it was another picture we met. On a door, we were told the head teacher's office is behind. Hoping to meet an official, certainly waiting for parents to register their kids, it was a thick forest that welcomed us, and the entire section has been engulfed by grass. On the wall of the school, a notice of admission was written, but it was since August 7th, 2016 that the last admission into the school was done. Dust and cobwebs have also covered the classrooms. The last time people sat in this class to study was on May 2nd, 2018, and since then, effective studies haven't been carried out. With the situation of these two government primary schools within Muya in Boya subdivision considered as a hot spot in the ongoing crisis, Many parents who spoke to us off the mic say their kids won't school in Muya when the new school year resumes if peace does not return.
From Buea to Limbe, still in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, the divisional officer of Limbe 3 subdivision is urging parents to send their children to school October 5th, 2020 for the next academic year. She was speaking during activities marking the end of holidays in that part of the country. Davidson Maimo reports.
Ring of Limbe 3 subdivision, coupled with its bad road and most of the inhabited areas within the creeks that makes up the subdivision, did not stop some of the youths of every age group to be part of the gala march, crowning the end of holiday activities in the subdivision. Taking place under the watchful eyes of the divisional officer of Limbe 3 subdivision, Epole Vecklin used the occasion to call on parents and youth to be formally educated, saying it is a pillar of tomorrow's Cameroon.
As school resumed on the 5th of October, we're calling on all our children to go back to school, that education is the key to everything in life. I mean everything, not just success, everything. Without education, we are completely lost.
Just like the divisional officer, the National Youth Council President for Limbe 3 subdivision, Adolphe Mwambo, says the key message during the holiday activities centered around kicking coronavirus out of Cameroon.
It was the sensitization against COVID before the reopening of schools.
Well, you all know that the coronavirus somehow has been able to, Cameroon has been able to curb it somehow. At least I think that we are out of danger as it is now. We just pray that the measures continue to be respected.
The youths were all reminded of the need to be law-abiding citizens and carry on with every civic responsibility of building Cameroon.
Call on the rest of the youth to know that Cameroon is one country, and the leaders of which we are today, we are ready to accompany them.
Cameroon is their nation and they have to work for the betterment of Cameroon.
The holidays activities was organized by the National Youth Council of Limbe 3 subdivision with support from the Limbe 3 Council and elite from the subdivision.
And some private and public school principals in the town of Douala have said that the 50 students per class and 2-shift orientation of the Minister of Secondary Education, Pauline Nalova-Lyonga, has created other problems in their schools. These measures were taken to prevent the spread of coronavirus as pupils and students return to school October 5th, 2020. Details in this report compiled by For Me Armstrong Sander.
Private and public secondary school actors in Douala, Cameroon are conscious that the 2020-2021 school year will be very challenging and maybe the most challenging considering the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Added to the need to uphold security and hygiene, school officials are activating logistical and human resources to better implement the specific orientations given by the Minister of Secondary Education, Professor Nalova-Lyonga, to stop the spread of COVID-19.
At Government Bilingual High School Bipanda, we have designed the timetable to fit the 2-shift orientation given by the minister. The school has been divided into 2 groups. The first group includes Form 1 to Form 4, while the second is made up of Form 5 to opposite. But Form 1 students will only come in the morning, considering their ages. The main groups will rotate. If one comes today in the morning, the next day they will study in the afternoon, while the other group takes the morning shift. At Government Bilingual High School Jos, we have created supplementary classrooms to ensure that the 50 per class quota given by the minister is respected. We have also designed the timetable to get learners come to school in shifts. The first shift runs from 7:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. and the second shift from 12:40 p.m. to 6 p.m. We have also fixed evening classes for situations when teaching hours are not respected. At GBH's Dado, strict measures have been taken to reduce physical contact among students to the barest minimum.
Ce sera un peu difficile, mais on va s'organiser pour qu'ils croisent le moins possible.
Ready to implement the 50 students per class and the 2 shifts directive of the ministry. Public school principals in Douala say they have problems created by the anti-COVID-19 solution.
Nous n'avons pas véritablement les ressources humaines.
We really do not have enough personnel in several departments, though not all departments are concerned.
Parce qu'il faut également noter que le ministre a diminué les quotas horaires.
Vous savez qu'avec l'augmentation du nombre de...
We know it's logical that there be need for additional teaching staff, considering the increase in the number of classes and classrooms.
L'après-midi et le soir en e-learning.
The special teaching and learning measures in Douala vary from one area to the other.
Dont certains enseignants vont travailler avec les enfants en ligne.
Some teachers will work with students online in the evening. Considering the realities of Bipanda, most students do not have Android phones. We chose the evening period knowing that parents will be home to help them with their Android phones.
C'est un peu difficile, donc nous avons préféré que ces enfants travaillent un peu le soir.
To private secondary schools across the economic capital city, the COVID-19 barrier measures will be reinforced, but implementing the 2 shifts orientation from the Ministry of Secondary Education remains a major challenge, considering the staff and infrastructural strength of the sector.
Health statistics in the Republic of Cameroon indicate that over 30% of the population is affected with the problem of cardiovascular diseases, and health officials are intensifying sensitization in order to enable the population to adopt healthy lifestyles and eating habits, in particular in order to stay safe from cardiovascular diseases. Immaculate Fogwe reports.
The situation of cardiovascular diseases and risk factors remains a major call for concern in Cameroon and the world. In Cameroon, about 30% of the population suffer from cardiovascular diseases, with the following risk factors advanced.
La façon de s'alimenter est une des causes des maladies.
Inactivity, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, alcohol, tobacco, and salt intake are some of the major causes of cardiovascular diseases.
Et à côté de ça, on va citer aussi le manque d'activité physique, le fait que les gens sont de plus en plus sédentaires, utilisent le moyen de transport pour se déplacer.
Health experts attribute the high prevalence rate in Cameroon for the following reasons.
Alors, vous avez des personnes qui refusent d'accepter l'hypertension artérielle.
A lot of people die of cardiovascular disease in Cameroon because they refuse to respect the doctor's advice. Many of them abandon the drugs prescribed in the hospital and decide to rely on herbs, while some others rely solely on prayers. It is good to pray, but let them reason before carrying out an action.
C'est pas que je ne crois pas au miracle de la guérison, mais pour moi c'est une catastrophe.
The commemoration of World Heart Day on the 29th of September is meant to raise awareness about cardiovascular diseases, their prevention, and its global impact. The occasion highlights the actions that individuals can take to prevent, control cardiovascular diseases. It is for this reason that the Heart and Life Foundation in Douala decided to sensitize the population on the dangers.
Un patient qui fait un accident vasculaire cérébral à la phase aiguë de sa prise en charge.
Persons suffering with acute stroke have to spend 700,000 francs CFA for treatment, and a lot of Cameroonians cannot afford that amount. By the way, spending that amount does not guarantee that the patient will be cured.
Quel qu'en soit ce qu'on va dépenser, on ne garantit pas que le mal va récupérer totalement de ses moyens. Donc pour dire,
the population are called upon to live a healthy lifestyle in order to be safe.
Coming up next, talking point. Thank you for staying with us in Talking Points today. We are receiving the Deputy National Communication Secretary of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM, political party, Tayon Elvis, journalist, political analyst. Thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, Babila Jonathan, for being here present today while still advocating for the access to food supply to those who have been incarcerated to be given by the forces of law and order, and also to ensure that those who have been incarcerated should also be set free as fast as possible.
What is the situation of the national president of the CRM political party, Professor Maurice Kamto, who has been on house arrest since the 22nd of September? Other leaders like Professor Alain Foguet, who were arrested and detained, other militants. What is their situation?
Well, the situation still remains precarious, but the party is putting in place all what it takes to ensure that the issue is addressed both legally and the issues of working with even letting the international community to be aware also of the situation. You know, the issue is precarious because if you look at it, if you see Professor Alain Foguet, you see Bouboun Nisak, the spokesman to the chairman of the party, you know, most of them weeks of days before at the residence, you know, that's a day before, which you start asking, you didn't see them on the street, but you're whisking them off. And then from the detention conditions where they are, it is not the best. As I said, we have a solidarity fund that has been raised by the barrister, the lawyers themselves, and of course there's that move chaired by Barrister Mispa, who is equally the president of the women's wing of the party, National Women's Wing, who is carrying out a follow-up to ensure that some assistance is given to those who are incarcerated. But you know, the bad thing here is that the powers that be are not yet given access to that. So it becomes a call. But for the issue of the president-elect, normally, you see the worry had been when most of the officials met with some of the government officials. It is true, house arrest has been given, but you know, the government itself, in a tactful manner, does not want to issue an official order, which we felt that if you want to put someone in house arrest, administration is written. So there should be an official document serve the person, but we see that the government is playing a hanky-panky game. The government does not want to be held from the written letter. That is a house arrest. So you see, at a point in time, the government would tend to argue that no, it was not house arrest, it was just securing his house from people who wanted to attack and things like that. But that's not the issue as we speak, because even the security guards who were on board his house, of course, two have been taken away when the officials came to carry out an exchange. So you see, it is quite a precarious situation. But before the lawyers themselves had the way to have a meeting with him, that was yesterday, as from 2 p.m., you know, it took some other network movements and with government officials before he could move. So you discovered that somewhere, the officials that be, or the powers that be, somewhere have given that instruction. But what we were worried was, if you want to violate his right, keeping him house arrest, nobody is coming in, nobody is going out for over a week, there is supposed to be a written document that could be backed up to show that this is what you are doing. Unfortunately, we are not getting that from the government bench.
All right, before we go further to talk about this issue, I wanted to clarify an attribute which is generally used by CRM militants. You just used that attribute now. You said president-elect. What is this issue of president-elect all about? The 2018 presidential election unfolded, and the election results were proclaimed and confirmed by the Constitutional Council, and of course the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, was declared winner. Why are you still using president-elect?
Well, because the party still feels that the party has a firm belief that the party won that election. Now, if you look at it critically, our worry has been, from the analysis most Cameroonians look at the situation. Now, if you give us probably less than 18%, for example, in a presidential election, and you have about 77%, I mean, the effects on the ground are giving us something contrary. Because when you call us, for example, as I say, certain petit party politique, that is small political parties, the question now is, why are they shivering? If you look at it critically, for the past 2 weeks and beyond, in all the government sectors, CRM has been on their mouth lips. By the Minister of Communication, you begin to get that something is wrong, because when you congratulate Cameroonians for not coming out, the question is, did they stay in their houses because they love to stay, or because there was repression and intimidation from all angles? It is not necessarily the case, which means something is wrong somewhere, but we think that it has to be addressed accordingly.
Is that why you continue addressing Professor Maurice Kamto as president-elect, even though there is a president who is currently...
The terms are different. Mandate? The terms are different. You have current president and president-elect. They are two different things. And so if you hear someone says president-elect, it's because the revendication of the last presidential election is still around the corner, it's still on course, which means the CRM party believes that they were quite on track with the last presidential election. So that's why you see that name President-elect still holds, which differs from the incumbent president. So it's an appellation that tells you. It is not illegal. President-elect and incumbent are two different things. If you heard CRM tells you that the president of the Republic of Cameroon, it becomes different. If the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Professor Maurice Kamto, that you could say they are usurping his position. President-elect tells you that somebody was elected but was not given the position to rule, and therefore another person is in that place. So there are two different presidents as per se. One is president-elect, one is the current president. It doesn't cancel us from revindicating that position.
All right, back to where we were discussing. What is the government saying? What are the authorities saying concerning the case of Professor Maurice Kamto, concerning the case of Professor Alain Fogué, or Bibou Nissa? What are the authorities saying?
Well, you know, for Professor Maurice Kamto, the other things we have on the ground is rumors. You hold somebody hostage, house arrest from a Sunday or even Saturday right up to the present day. Now, away from that, the state recognizes that security forces are around this place, but no government official is willing to make official document that I ordered the house arrest to be effected. For reasons we are still wanting to know, because that's what the lawyers put before the government officials to ask them. But we understand that. They say yes, they understand. But the question is, why are documents not moving? Now, for the others, Professor Alain Fogué and other, like, you know,
the case of Professor Maurice Kamto is said to be under examination by judicial institutions, with regards to the fact that what happened on the 22nd of September 2020 is qualified as insurrection.
No, you say so. But the issue I'm saying is that
that's what the authorities are saying.
No, excuse me. We don't need, administration is written. You got the point. When you put an aspect on the ground, we expect the document to be served. Because at a point in time, we could get to a point whereby the state says he was not being put under arrest, or maybe they were surveying but out of and not around his area. You see, it becomes argumentative. That's why you see that from our earlier communique, the president, Professor Maurice Kamto, had earlier written a communique notifying the international community that this is what is happening. And from the arrest that we had before the 22nd and the current arrest of the security guard tells you that something's around the corner. We are not refusing the allegations, because if Cameroon is a state of law, it's but normal that you serve somebody his crime, and of course the law courts are open to take their course. But when you keep it cool and there's no official document served, I think that if you are under house arrest, there should be a document authenticating that we have been sent by this government bench to put you under house arrest. We have not had that still now. So we still see it as operating on the abuse of human rights as we speak now.
And the question some are asking is Professor Maurice Kamto that much of a threat to the present government?
Well, we see so, but we don't think that on his part, he stands as a threat. But the state makes it to be so. Why are we saying so? If you look at the movement we are putting in place, the Pacific March and other like, our intention has been to create an awareness on the side of the government to do things the way they are supposed to do. Of course, in our reivindications, we said it's abnormal that we sit and people keep dying. You are aware of the fact that just a few days ago, less than 24 hours, there were corpses found in Naka River on the Naka Bridge in Bali. Now, if you look at the various aspects of death we record every day in the Northwest Southwest region, we think that on our own part, we are making a move to force the government to take the matter serious and faster. Because the more we delay and we endorse into activities, regional elections and other like, we see it downplaying on the lives of Cameroonians. And as you see, we keep saying that all lives matter, be the lives of the secessionists, be the life of the civilians, or life of the military. So our intention is not even to go into the detailed matter, but that the crux of the matter should be solved by the Yaoundé regime, which they have refused to do that as per the faster rate we think it should be. So with the community solutions we see them being put in place, it is affecting, and we think that we cannot be indifferent, because if some persons, especially elites from the North and the South region, stay quiet, parliamentarians are not commenting in the parliament, senators are staying mute, there's something is not coming up, it means that we are getting worried that the regime itself is not taking the crisis as serious as we think it's supposed to be done.
The Social Democratic Front has pressed for the issue to be discussed in parliament to no avail. What about Professor Alain Fogué and Bibou Nissa? Why are they being detained? Any statement from the government authorities? The government authorities,
you know, all they will tell you is that is in relation to the ban protest. And in their statements, we hear them talk about insurrection. You know, they have their kind of what we call motives, as the Frenchman puts it. They will tell you that trying to destabilize the state, attempted insurrection. And we keep telling them that when you talk about insurrection, I have the impression that some of them don't even understand the meaning of it. Because insurrection has to do with issues that go with arms. Issue that comes with deliberate attack, that you come out with the intention of doing something at all costs, even when using arms. If you look at the Pacific protest, you will not see even stones that were carried by the protesters themselves. So you could see that at the end of it, The regime uses that intimidating tactic to intimidate the members of the party and therefore quote them and want to put them under military under the military tribunals and give them attachments under what they call terrorism law, which is a high sense of intimidation as we speak. If you look at my Secretary General, he has been intimidated several times. They want to pick it on all the like. The members helter-skelter. All of us, as you see, are not living actually in a safe area as per se. But we think that if the state had taken us seriously, we should have been number one party that thinks that the war in the Northwest Southwest should be addressed and immediately than going around other state businesses when people are dying. At the end of it, who shall we govern? Lives are lost every day. At first, you, the media, had figures of the people that died from the beginning. Have you heard anybody counting again? We have documented and undocumented deaths, which means at the end of it, nobody can give you a clear cut. That's why in our preamble we say the government should bring in place an inclusive dialogue. If an inclusive dialogue comes to place, reconciliation is set up, then people begin to find out those who are missing. Before you know it, they stop taking of the real lives that have been lost. We put on the table and we begin to seek the way forward, because how long shall we stay gallivanting 4 years and above without the state institutions known as Parliament and Senate folding their arms and lives are being lost every day? It is a call for concern, and we are simply doing our role as patriotic party, which has now been misinterpreted by the regime because they have their own agenda to carry on, which is slow. As we say, our order is they put in place measures. Most of them are cosmetic and most of them are not yielding fruit. But Mr. Jonathan, if you put a measure on the ground and it does not yield fruit, you need to change the tactic. You cannot keep beating on the same drum every day while people are dying. It means that the lives of these people in the Northwest Southwest does not matter to you. That's why CRM says that the lives that have been lost in the Northwest Southwest, so long as they are Cameroonians, it is the duty of Yaoundé regime to ensure that a faster measure, I repeat, a faster measure is put in place in order to address the situation.
All right, you have been urging Cameroonians to rise up and take part in the process of change that you want to bring about in the Republic of Cameroon. In some few seconds, Tayon Elvis, look at this camera and talk to Cameroonians. What should they do? Few seconds.
What should be done as of now is the fact that I still revolve around the party issue. Cameroonians must be able to understand that it is our duty for us to get things changed. So at the end of it, within the adjoining dialogue called in by the state, bringing in place all the stakeholders will go a long way to put them on the table, and then they talk about releasing political prisoners, putting them on the table, and they talk the way forward will end the crisis, and it will now give us a way to carry out other issues, elections, developments, and whatever the case might be.
Tayon Elvis, member of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party, National Communication Secretary of that party. Thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, and we'll continue carrying out our civic duty so as to educate the public on what is supposed to be done by the government.
Thank you, dear viewers, for staying with us. That's it for today.
Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image.